Sneak dissing, we don't see the competition. I drop off a ransom note that your art is missing, nigga.
Pay us in full with the money, or she gon' get her fingers clipped off like Lil Sonny,
MRecktv.
Yo, we always gonna be best friends, man. You hear something?
Have you guys heard of StreamBoss? It's a new IPTV provider that gives you over 5,000 channels for only $20 a month.
Oh, cool!
$20 for live TV, local TV, movies, TV shows, pay-per-views, and so much more.
Huh? What?
If you have a Fire Stick, smart TV, or streaming device, then head on over to thestreamboss.com to begin your setup process.
MRecktv breaking news.
Disciplinary complaint accuses Stowe Municipal Court judge of jailing people to coerce them into paying fines, court costs. Stowe, Ohio. The Ohio Supreme Court's disciplinary attorney has accused Stowe Municipal Court Judge Kim Hoover of illegally sending people to jail to coerce them into paying outstanding fines and court costs, often for minor misdemeanors. The 35-page complaint filed Monday says Hoover failed to follow state law that requires judges to hold evidentiary hearings to determine if a defendant has enough money to pay a fine or court cost before sending them to jail. Hoover also failed to tell defendants they had a right to have an attorney represent them at such a hearing, according to the complaint. Those laws were established after the U.S. Supreme Court outlawed so-called debtors' prisons in a landmark 1983 ruling. Hoover has frequently employed illegal and coercive tactics, such as imprisonment for several days or detention for several hours, to force unrepresented criminal defendants to pay their fines and costs, the complaint said. In doing so, Hoover has exhibited a bias against people who appear without counsel and cannot afford to pay their fines and costs. Disciplinary counsel Joseph Caligiuri accused Hoover of violating multiple ethical rules for judges. Caligiuri asked the Ohio Supreme Court's Board of Professional Conduct to hold a hearing on the allegations to determine whether Hoover should face sanctions. If the board recommends Hoover be disciplined, the Ohio Supreme Court's justices will make the final decision. As reported, the Plain Dealer reached out to Hoover for comment on Tuesday. In a statement to the Akron Beacon Journal, which first reported the disciplinary filing, Hoover said he was aware of the complaint and looked forward to a hearing on the allegations. I deny making defendants pay fines/costs is a violation of ethical standards, Hoover said in the statement he provided to the Beacon Journal. Outlawing debtors' prisons. Hoover, a Republican, has been on the bench since 1995 and has 4 years left on his term. He is ineligible to run again due to a state law that says that anyone age 70 or older cannot be elected a judge. Hoover cited that rule in his campaign this spring to unseat fellow Stowe Municipal Court Judge Lisa Coates. Coates, also a Republican, had been on the bench since 2003. Hoover would have gained an additional 2 years on the bench and remained the court's senior jurist had he defeated Coates in this year's Republican primary, but he lost. The disciplinary complaint said one of the main tenets of Hoover's campaign was that the court ought to be able to fund itself. The U.S. Supreme Court outlawed so-called debtors' prisons in its landmark 1983 decision Bearden v. Georgia. It held that judges must hold a hearing to determine whether a defendant had enough money to pay the fines, but willfully chose not to do so before sending them to jail. Jailing people who can't afford to pay court fines simply for failing to pay them violated the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor wrote. The Ohio Supreme Court outlined the state's laws around jailing defendants for failure to pay fines in a 2015 memo sent to every municipal court in Ohio. The law says judges cannot jail people for failure to pay court costs because those are civil penalties. If a judge determines the defendant has willfully refused to pay the fines imposed as a criminal sentence, the judge can send that person to jail until the fines are paid. The person gets $50 taken off the fine amount for every day spent in jail. You're gonna be staying a while. The disciplinary complaint included 12 cases in which Hoover is accused of violating those laws dating back to 2019. Hoover in September 2019 fined a man $100 and ordered him to pay $437 in court costs after the man pleaded guilty to driving on a suspended license. Hoover ordered the man to make a $100 payment within a few weeks of his sentence and pay the remaining balance by November 21st of that year, the complaint said. Hoover set a hearing for November 21st in case the man didn't pay. The man spent 7 days in jail for failing to pay a little more than $400 on a driving under suspension conviction, which is not a jailable offense. Even if Hoover held a hearing and determined the man willfully refused to pay the fines, he could only impose jail time for the $100 fine and not the court costs, the complaint said. The most he could have held the man in jail for was 2 days. The man also received credit for the 2 days he spent in jail, so he could have gone home that day, the complaint said. Try to get clever. Hoover presided over the February 2020 arraignment of a man who was charged with trespassing, a fourth-degree misdemeanor. The man, who pleaded not guilty, had $500 in outstanding fines dating back to 2017, including $250 in fines that Judge Coates had imposed on him 5 days earlier. Hoover cited the unpaid fines to berate the man. Although the Summit County Jail would not hold the man in custody on the trespass charge, Hoover said he was going to try to get clever to find a way to hold the man in jail to punish him for not paying the fines, the complaint said. Hoover then sentenced the man to 30 days in a community-based facility. The complaint said Hoover had no reason to do so because the man had no active cases before Hoover. Even if he did, the complaint said Hoover could only have ordered the man to spend 10 days in custody because of the $50 per day credit and he owed $500 in fines. The man spent 17 days in the facility before he pleaded guilty at a March 2020 court hearing before Coates. "I'm gonna put you in jail, then." The complaint also cited the case of a man who was charged with failure to reinstate his license when he appeared before Hoover in November 2020. The man had previously been charged with drunken driving and resisting arrest, but pleaded guilty in August 2020 to reduced charges of open container and a traffic citation of failure to control. Coates, who oversaw the man's guilty plea, ordered him to pay $976 in costs and fines. The man agreed to pay $244 per month. He made the first payment in September but missed the October payment, then was arrested on the failure to reinstate charge on October 19th. Hoover asked the man why he had more than $700 in outstanding fines and costs. The man said he lost his job and couldn't afford to pay. Hoover then went through the man's original charges of resisting arrest and drunken driving and said they don't sound like poverty, the complaint said. He asked the man how much he was willing to pay that day to go home. The man again said he was down on his luck and couldn't pay. Hoover asked how he bought food and clothing, and the man said he borrowed money from a relative. "All right. I'm gonna put you in jail then," Hoover said. Hoover also told the man that he would get a $50 credit for each day he spent in jail. "That way you don't have to worry about food, clothing, anything," Hoover told the man, according to the complaint. The man went to a holding cell in the courthouse and ended up using a credit card to pay off his debt, the complaint said. 4 days in jail. In another 2020 case, a man was arrested on a warrant after he failed to pay or show up to court to fight a 2018 traffic ticket. Hoover fined him $125 and ordered him to pay more than $300 in court costs. The man told Hoover he forgot about his court date in 2018 because his son had died and he nearly lost his house. Hoover then sent the man to jail because he couldn't come up with the money to settle the fine and costs that day, the complaint says. The man spent the next 4 days in jail before Hoover brought him back to court for a hearing. The complaint says Hoover began the hearing by asking the man, "Have you learned your lesson from being a deadbeat?" Hoover credited the man $250 for 5 days in jail and released him from custody after the hearing, the complaint says. However, the complaint says the man should have been released after a maximum of 2.5 days because he'd only been fined $125. Start calling mom and dad and grandma. The complaint also cites a case where Hoover sentenced a man to 30 days in jail after the man overdosed on drugs and was subsequently charged with possession of drug instruments. Hoover said he would not make the man serve any jail time if he could pay his $750 fine plus court costs that same day. The man said he only had $45 at home. Hoover replied, "Oh, that's not good," the complaint said. Hoover told the man that the clerk of courts would tell him the full amount of the court costs. "Then you're gonna start calling mom and dad?"
MRecktv breaking news.
You hear something?
Have you guys heard of StreamBoss? It's a new IPTV provider that gives you over 5,000 channels for only $20 a month.
Oh, cool!
$20 for live TV, local TV, movies, TV shows, pay-per-views, and so much more.
Huh? What?
If you have a Fire Stick, smart TV, or streaming device, then head on over to StreamBoss.com to begin your setup process.
Yo, we always gonna be best friends, man.
How you feeling?
Yeah, nigga, that's how I feel.
Alright, man, drop your location, man.
Hey, homie, where you at, man? Drop that location, man. I'm about to pull up on you. Drop my location? Nigga, I'm about to send my addy right now, nigga. I'm about to... Alright, pull up.
No, you're the plug and such. You a joke's bound to happen if you slipping or you lacking. I'm gripping on the matching, ready for the action. Shots will make you break dance and have you do a backspin. I got more kicks than karate flicks. My whole team pushing Maserati whips. You on IG liking thotty pics. Shorty pocket broke, but her body fixed. Peace, world. To promote your music or promote your business by placing an ad on MRecktv, contact MRecktVpromo, MRecktVpromo @gmail.com. Peace. Oh yeah, subscribe to MRecktV, youtube.com/MRecktV. I'm gone. MRecktv. It's got a music.